Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite things in the game, and that is horses and horse customization. Anyone who plays with me or watches the live streams knows that my favorite thing about this game are the horses. The horses are what drew me into playing Red Dead Redemption initially with John Marston, and that led me to Red Dead Redemption 2, and honestly the horse animations and interactions are even more freaking amazing in the second one. A question I get asked a lot is my process when it comes to choosing a horse, the mane and tail, saddle, stirrups, and all that stuff. The great thing about this game is that you can really customize all of those things to your personal preference. In the first part of the video, I'm going to go over some tips for players under rank 100 who haven't unlocked everything yet. And the second part of the video, I'll go over customization for people who have unlocked everything. And in the final part of the video, I'm going to talk about some things that I hope that Rockstar adds for the horses. Without further ado, let's get into it. So one thing I try to emphasize when talking to new players is that horse stats ultimately don't matter in the game. This is really good news because it means you can choose a horse that you like the look of without being too concerned about overall stats. That being said, as a new player, horse stats can matter just a little bit more because you don't have access to all of the saddles, stirrups, and ability cards that make a low stat horse amazing. As a new player scrolling through options, you're going to see a lot of items locked behind a certain rank level. The first horse you get is probably going to have lower health and stamina, which wouldn't be a big deal, except you can't access better stirrups to prevent stamina drain until much higher levels. Items will slowly unlock all the way up to rank 100. As a new player, you're going to be limited on how much you can customize your horse, and my suggestion is to just be patient. If you're playing regularly, you're going to rank up fairly quickly. If you can handle a slower pace, your first horse will serve you well. But if you're someone who likes to sprint across the map, my recommendation would be to purchase one of the Mustangs that isn't rank locked as soon as you have enough money. They're $500, but that's not really too hard to get, especially if you have friends that play the game. Rockstar added coat variations to the Mustangs, Turkmens, and Missouri Foxtrotters, and they didn't lock them behind a certain level. This means as soon as you have the money, you can purchase it. And at level 4 Bond, the Mustang has full health and stamina. This is going to be beneficial because you don't have the saddle stirrup combos to negate stamina drain. You're going to be able to run your horse longer without running out of stamina. And your horse should last longer in gunfights, although sometimes the revenue agents or NPCs do target your horses, so that's not always the case. As far as saddles go, a great saddle you have access to right away is the Alligator Ranch Cutter saddle. This can be found under special saddles and is a really good early option. One of my favorite saddles for looks in this game is the Bellinger, and you can actually unlock this as low as rank 16, which isn't bad at all. Once you have your horse picked out, scroll through the saddles, just see what you have unlocked, start looking at what type of style you like the look of, and then what color is going to complement your horse. Two of the best stirrups you can have are the Tapadors at rank 48 and the Hooded at rank 54. Once you have these stirrups, pretty much every saddle becomes a viable option. Another thing I want to point out is that some saddles can't be customized, meaning the saddle comes as a whole package and you can't customize stirrups, saddlebag, or saddle pad, so just keep this in mind. These saddles usually start with higher stats, and then just remember at the end of the day that you should pick a horse, mane, tail, saddle, and stirrup combo that you like the look of. Don't listen to people who tell you that you need to purchase a certain horse or a certain saddle or a certain set of stirrups just because of the stats. Horse temperament and bravery is random, so even if you purchase this top stat horse, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a really great horse. Plus, it's fun to see all the variety and individuality that people show through their horse choices. So now let's get into the fun stuff, which is customization options once you have everything unlocked. Now, there's no correct way to customize your horse because it's really to your own personal taste. I'll walk you through my process, but this is what works best for me based on what I find aesthetically pleasing, and that's going to be completely different from you. When you go to your horse, you have 3 options for customization. The first one is saddles, where you're going to select your saddle, and then under saddle you can change things like the saddlebag, stirrups, horn, blanket, bedroll, lantern, and mask if you have them. Of course, keep in mind there are some saddles that don't allow customization of all of those items. Then under appearance, you can change the mane and tail to different styles and colors, as well as add a mustache, again if you've unlocked it from a previous Outlaw Pass. Finally, under services, you can rename your horse, purchase horse insurance, and purchase a horse care package, which temporarily gives your horse gold cores. So let's go through the process. This is Storm, my gray Avero American paint. The first thing I do with a new horse is I work on finding a mane and tail that I like. So I'll typically just start scrolling through them, through the different styles, and then changing color to see what fits. One of my favorite manes added to the game in an Outlaw Pass is the sleek mane, because I like the length of it and I like the hair in the eyes. So you're going to see this on a lot of my horses. In this case, I choose a sleek mane for the paint. And then next I'll move on to the tail. And if I'm using the sleek mane, more than likely I'm going to be using the wild tail, which was also added in an Outlaw Pass, so you might not have access to it. I really like the length and thickness of it, and with the sleek mane it just goes really well together. Once the mane and tail are picked, I'll then scroll through the saddles that I own to see if any of them are good fit. I typically use about the same 3 to 5 saddles, so most of the time I'm going to have one that works. But one thing I really hate is that if you own 10 saddles, you're going to have to discard one in order to go look at the saddle options in the store. In this case, I really like the way the upland saddle looks on this horse, and so I add that one. There isn't much else I can do now though, because this is one of the saddles that you can't customize, which is okay because I actually really like the upland saddle. It's one of my favorites. The saddlebag, stirrups, horn, blanket, and bedroll are all set pieces, so again, you can't change them. You can add a lantern, but I never do with this saddle because the straps of the lantern are brown, and there's no brown in the saddle, and so I just don't like the way it looks. And you can add a horse mask if you have them. I prefer to see the horse's face though, so I rarely use horse masks. There are a couple that I'll show you that I use, but that's pretty rare. I'll then take the horse out of the stable and look at it in first person to see if there's anything that I want to change, and I do often go back into the stables to tweak something, such as the mane and tail style or color, or I might try a different saddle. When you're out of the stable, the lighting is going to be a little different, the horse is going to look a little different, so make sure you take a look at it, and then don't be afraid to try up different things if you're not quite liking the way something's fitting. This is Aragon, my dappled buckskin roadster, and easily one of my favorite horses in the game. There's a couple of horses that I just really like the natural mane, so I don't change it, and this is one of them. But I do typically change the tail to long because I like a long, full, flowy tail, so even if I leave the mane the same, I do typically go to a long version of whatever tail they have natural. Next, I look at saddles, and honestly, there are several that look really great on this horse. I'm a huge fan here of the Rattlesnake Vaquero, and I really like the way the upland looks as well, but at this particular moment, I'm really feeling the Panther Trail saddle. Now, this is another saddle that you can't completely customize, as the stirrups, horn, and blanket are all set, but you can change the saddlebag and bedroll, so you do have a little bit more freedom than the upland. In this case, the saddle has brown on it, the horse is brown, so my go-to brown saddlebag is the Collector, simply because you can hold 7 outfits instead of 5 in the upgraded or 3 in the standard. I then change the bedroll to a light cream color that matches the lighter part of the saddle, and then the brown straps on it also go with the darker brown on the saddle and saddlebag. I take a look at the mask, but don't really like the way they look, so once again I leave the stables to take a look and see if I want to change anything. But in this case, I'm pretty happy with the way he looks. Here are 2 more horses I'm just going to quickly go over to give you an idea of some different things that I do. The Steel Grey Breton Whiskey looks great with this Martinville saddle, and this saddle has some brown on it, so I use the Collector saddlebag, and this time I also use the lantern because of the brown straps. I really like this pairing of the lantern with this specific saddle, so if I'm using the Martinville saddle, I almost always have the lantern attached to it. I don't know why, but for some reason for me it just goes really well together. And then this is one of 2 horse masks that I'll use, and I only use this mask on the Grey Breton, just because I think it fits him really well. I still miss out on being able to see his mane because I do leave it natural. I do like the way it looks, but for some reason this mask I think just really fits him. Part of customizing is really just trying stuff out and then tweaking it until you get exactly what you like, and then also going back in and maybe changing it up. I won't leave this mask on all the time. I will go in and take it off so I can see his mane, but then I'll put it on sometimes as well. Belladonna is my brown leopard Appaloosa, and one of the few horses that I'll use braids on. I really like the way the braids look on the Appaloosas, sometimes the American Paint, and I've got a Nakota right now that I think it looks really good on. I'm also currently using the same Martinville saddle with lantern, but this horse actually looks really good in a variety of saddles: the Rattlesnake, the Boar, the Panther, the Brown Belliger, just to name a few because of its coloring. There's a lot of different ones that you could try out. The Martinville is fully customizable, so I'll typically put on a silver horn and the hooded stirrup. stirrup with it. Just a few quick notes when it comes to customization. Saddles and stirrups both impact stats, however most of those stats don't matter too much except for stamina drain. If you have a horse with high stamina, it probably isn't going to matter much and you most likely won't run out of stamina unless you're sprinting from one side of the map to another. But if you're concerned about it or notice that stamina is dropping quickly, try giving the hooded stirrup a try. If you're still having issues and you don't care about looks and you just want a pairing that ensures you never run out of stamina, try the hooded stirrup on the Nacogdoches saddle. The horn, blanket, bedroll, lantern, and masks do not affect stats at all, so they're purely for aesthetics. The saddlebag doesn't affect horse stats, but it does determine how many outfits you can carry on your horse. You can carry 3 outfits with the standard saddlebag, 5 with the upgraded, and 7 with the collector saddlebag. You can always rename your horse, so if you pick a name and you don't like it, have no fear, you can go in it and change it. Horse insurance probably isn't very cost effective for most people, but I personally really hate it when another player kills my horse and I have to pay the $4 fee. Basically with the horse insurance, anytime your horse dies, you don't have to pay the $4 fee, it's covered. So if your horse dies a lot, it would maybe eventually pay for itself. Otherwise, it's probably going to take a really long time for you to earn your money back. But again, I only do it, I put it on all my horses. I have lots of money there, so I don't have to worry about it. I do it because I want the other player to pay the fee. That's the only reason. Finally, let's talk about some things I'd like to see come to horse customization. Number 1, I'd love to see them change it so that the horse stats and coat are not tied together. Even though stats don't matter that much, you're going to see a lot of people riding the same horses because they're top tier. I don't think it'll ever really happen, but I'd love for you to be able to buy the stats of, say, the level 20 Roadster, but then pick whatever coat color you want. And on that note, it'd be really cool to have way more colors and patterns to choose from. Then you'd really start to see some variety, and that's the most exciting thing for me, is I love to see the variety of horses in the game. Number 2, more mane and tail options. I'd love to see, for example, the sleek mane and wild tail in solid colors, not the mixed colors, so like all black, all white. It already exists in the game because the white Gypsy Cob has a white sleek mane, so I don't know if it's something they're planning to bring in future Outlaw passes or what, but I really hope they do that. And I'd love for them to fix the manes that are broken, where the bangs don't move. Some of the manes are really pretty, but I just can't stand that the bangs are not affected by the wind. And it's not like that with similar manes in other styles on horses, for example, where that's the natural mane. So I don't know why it's like that with these manes that came afterward in Outlaw passes. Number 3, horse paints, feathers, and tattoos would be another really cool way to customize horses. Number 4, allow us to customize outside of the stable, like in a corral, so that we can see how everything looks in the sunlight. Allow us to view the bridle that comes with the saddle and not just be able to look right at the saddle. Allow us to be able to view all saddles, even if we have one for each horse. So there's really some stuff where when you're customizing your horse, until you get it out of the stable, you can't really tell if you like it or not because you can't see the whole horse. You can't like zoom out and look at it. And I really hate that. Number 5, the ability to take off the saddle and ride bareback. Rockstar's really missed a lot of opportunities, especially when it comes to native characters. Things like war paint, feathers, being able to take off the saddle are all ways to allow people to really customize their horses in a way that fits their character and the story. Number 6, bring back horse masks and add new ones. While they're not personally my favorite, I don't use a lot of them, a lot of people missed out on them and don't have access, and they love to be able to add a mask to their horse, and I think there's more stuff they can do with it as well. Number 7, obviously it goes without saying that I want more stalls. A great idea a lot of people have is that you can have a certain amount of horses at each of the different stables across the map. So for example, you could have 5 horses at the Blackwater stables that are different from the 5 that you have in Tumbleweed, 5 in Valentine, 5 in Saint Denis, and so on. And this would be a really easy way to add more horses that you could have for your character. Number 8, add more horse breeds such as the Frisian and Clydesdale, which I'd really love, and really add more horse coats to the breeds that are already available. Their Den, for example, only has 2 coats, and they're not personally my favorite, so I'd love for them to bring some more to horses like that. And also bring the horse coats from story to online. I know they were trying to keep it so that, like, things in the story weren't necessarily, I don't know, but they just have this weird thing where they're like, oh, that's a gang member's horse, like you can't ride it online because it's not special. I'm like, well, you can already get some of the gang members' horses, so just bring all the special coats from story, because honestly some people haven't even played the story. I could go on and on. These are definitely some of my top wants for horses in the game, but how about you guys? What would you like to see Rockstar add when it comes to customization? If you found this video helpful, I'd appreciate it if you give it a like. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.